Good afternoon, hoops and hockey fans. Big Al here on this MLK Monday, January 16th, 2023. And it's time to take a look at the updated NBA standings and the updated NHL standings through January 15th. Now, there are some games in progress in both leagues, and it looks like one game has gone final, so we better go ahead and jump into those standings if this thing will let me, of course. Give me just a second here. Okay, get the standings up. There we go. And then pull this back. All right. So we'll start with the NBA standings through January 15th, starting off with the Eastern Conference, where the Boston Celtics entered today with a 32-12 record, putting them atop the Atlantic Division. They've won 6 straight games, and they are 8-2 in their last 10 games. In second place are the Brooklyn Nets at 27-15, 4 games behind the Celtics, 7-3 in their last 10, including back-to-back losses. Third place are the Philadelphia 76ers at 27-16, 7-3 in their last 10 games, including 2 straight wins. Fourth place are the New York Knicks at 25-19, 7 games behind Boston, 7-3 in their last 10, including 3 straight wins. And sitting in last place are the Toronto Raptors, 19-24, 12.5 games behind the Celtics, 4-6 record in their last 10, and they lost their last game. All right, the Milwaukee Bucks hanging on atop the Central Division at 27-16, 5-5 record in their last 10, including back-to-back losses. And just below them in second place are the Cleveland Cavaliers, 27-17, just a half game out. Also 5-5 in their last 10. They've lost their last game. Third place are the Indiana Pacers, 23-21, 4.5 games behind Milwaukee, 6-4 in their last 10, including 3 straight losses. So they've kind of been a hot and cold team all year. Fourth place are the Chicago Bulls, 20-24, 7.5 games out, 5-5 record in their last 10 games, and Chicago, of course, winning their last game. Last place are the Detroit Pistons, 12-35, 17 games behind Milwaukee, 3-7 in their last 10 games, including back-to-back losses. The Miami Heat starting to get hot, sitting atop the Southeast Division with a 24-20 record, 7-3 in their last 10 games, including 3 straight wins. In second place are the Atlanta Hawks, 21-22, 2.5 games behind the Heat, 4-6 in their last 10 games, including back-to-back wins. Third place is the Washington Wizards, 18-25, 5.5 games behind Miami, 6-4 in their last 10, lost their last game. Fourth place is the Orlando Magic, 16-28, 8 games behind the Heat, 3-7 in their last 10 games, including back-to-back losses. And sitting in last place, percentage-wise, with the worst record in the Eastern Conference, the Charlotte Hornets, 11-33, 13 games behind the Miami Heat, 2-8 in their last 10 games, including 4 straight losses. All right, let's look at the playoff picture in the Eastern Conference. The Boston Celtics remain the top seed in the East with a 32-12 record. Brooklyn is number 2 at 27-15. Then you have a tie for that third spot with both Milwaukee and Philadelphia, both with matching 27-16 records. The Bucks right now own the tiebreaker, so that would give them the number 3 seed. The Sixers would be the number 4 seed. Cleveland is presently the 5 seed at 27-17. And The New York Knicks would be the 6th seed at the present time at 26-19. So that's your top 6 in the East. Spots 7 through 10 would make the play-in tournament. Sitting in the 7th spot is the Miami Heat at 24-20. In 8th is the Indiana Pacers at 23-21. 9th is the Atlanta Hawks, 21-22. And 10th is the Chicago Bulls at 20-24. Outside of the playoffs, you have the Toronto Raptors just a half game behind Chicago for 10th. Washington is 1.5 games out. Orlando is 4 games out, and it really drops off. Detroit at the present time would be 9.5 games out. In fact, Charlotte would be 9 games out. And then it's Detroit at 9.5 games out. Taking a look at the Western Conference. The red-hot Memphis Grizzlies growing their lead in the Southwest Division at 29-13. Right now would be the second best record in the Western Conference. They're 9-1 in their last 10 games, including 9 straight wins. Sitting in second place are the New Orleans Pelicans at 26-17, 3.5 games behind the Grizzlies, 5-5 in their last 10. They won their last game. Third place are the Dallas Mavericks, 24-21, 6.5 games out, 5-5 in their last 10, including back-to-back losses. Fourth place are the San Antonio Spurs, 13-31, 17 games behind Memphis, 2-8 in their last 10 games, including 5 straight losses, and one of those defeats coming Friday night, where the Spurs set the all-time attendance record in NBA history in their game with the Golden State Warriors, where over 68,000 fans packed the Alamo Dome on Friday night. Of course, the Spurs played in the Alamo Dome for a decade before moving into the AT&T Center. Fifth place is the Houston Rockets, with the NBA's overall worst record at 10-33. They are 19.5 games behind the Grizzlies, 0-10 in their previous 10 games, and all 10 of them losses. So yeah, the Houston Rockets, worst team in the NBA record-wise right now. In the Northwest Division sits the Western Conference's best team, and that's the Denver Nuggets at 30-13. They're a half game ahead of Memphis for the top record in the West. They are 8-2 in their last 10 games, including 6 straight wins. In second place are the Minnesota Timberwolves, who have been playing well recently. They're sitting with a 500 record at 22-22, trailing Denver by a whopping 8.5 games. They're 6-4 in their last 10, including back-to-back wins. In third place are the Portland Trailblazers, 21-22, 9 games behind the Nuggets, 4-6 in their last 10, including back-to-back wins. In fourth place, you have the Utah Jazz, 22-24, and they are in a points tiebreaker with the Oklahoma City Thunder at 21-23. Utah has a .478 win percentage. They're 3-7 in their last 10 games, including a loss in their last game, while Oklahoma City has a .477 win percentage, a 6-4 record in their last 10 games, and that includes 3 straight wins. Both teams trailed Denver by 9.5. And then you've got the pretty tight Pacific Division, and dare I say, pretty weak if you ask me. The Sacramento Kings are still on top of the division at 24-18, 7-3 record in their last 10 games, including 4 straight wins. Then in second place, you have the Los Angeles Clippers, who have been sliding recently. It looks like they're starting to get back on track here. They're 23-22, trailing the Kings by 2.5 games. They're 3-7 in their last 10, and LA won their last game. Third place are the NBA champion Golden State Warriors at 21-22, 3.5 games behind Sacramento. 6-4 in their last 10, including a loss in their last game. Down in fourth place are the Phoenix Suns, 21-23, trailing the Kings by 4. They're 2-8 in their last 10, including back-to-back losses. And still in last place are the Los Angeles Lakers, 19-24, 5.5 games behind Sacramento, 6-4 in their last 10 games, including 3 straight losses. All right, let's take a look at the playoff picture in the Western Conference. The top 6 will clinch playoff spots, and those 6 teams are the top seeded Denver Nuggets at 30-13, the number 2 seeded Memphis Grizzlies at 29-13. Then it's the 3rd seeded New Orleans Pelicans at 26-17. Sitting in the 4th spot, you have the Sacramento Kings at 24-18. The Dallas Mavericks are in the 5 hole at 24-21. And in the 6th spot, the LA Clippers, 23-22. 7 through 10 would make the play-in tournament, and the 4 teams that would be in the play-in tournament are the Minnesota Timberwolves at 22-22, presently sitting in the number 7 spot. The Golden State Warriors and Portland Trailblazers both sit at 21-22. Golden State would be the number 8 seed, Portland the number 9 seed. And there's a 3-way tie for that last playoff spot in the play-in tournament, with the Utah Jazz at 22-24, and both the Phoenix Suns and Oklahoma City Thunder at 21-23. Based on tiebreakers, Utah would be the last team in, which would leave Portland and Oklahoma City on the outside looking in. Same with the LA Lakers, who would be just a game and a half out of that last playoff spot. San Antonio would be 8 games out, and Houston already 10.5 games out. So that's the NBA standings through January 15th. Now we're going to jump over to the National Hockey League standings through January 15th. There it is. So tired of this TV doing this. Anyway, on to the NHL schedule, or the NHL standings entering today. Starting off in the Eastern Conference, where the Boston Bruins are on top of the Atlantic Division, 42 games played, 33-5-4 for 70 points, 31 wins in regulation or overtime. Followed by the very distant second place Toronto Maple Leafs, 44 games, 26-11-7, 59 points, 26 wins in regulation or overtime. In third place are the Tampa Bay Lightning, 41 games played, 27-13-1 for 55 points, and 26 wins in regulation or overtime. In fourth place, you have the Buffalo Sabres and the Florida Panthers based on points. Buffalo played 41 games. They're 21-18-2 with 20 wins in regulation or overtime. Florida played 44 games. They're 20-20-4 with 19 wins in regulation or overtime, both teams with 44 points. In sixth place, you have the Detroit Red Wings, 41 games, 18-16-7, 43 points, 17 wins in regulation or overtime. Seventh place are the Ottawa Senators, 42 games, 19-20-3 for 41 points, 18 wins in regulation or overtime. And in last place in the Atlantic, the Montreal Canadiens, 44 games, 18-23-3, 39 points, 14 wins in regulation or overtime. Over to the Metropolitan Division, which is led by the Carolina Hurricanes. 44 games, 27, 9, and 8 for 62 points, 24 wins in regulation or overtime. In second place are the New Jersey Devils. 43 games played, 28, 12, and 3 record for 59 points, all 28 wins in regulation or overtime. Third place are the New York Rangers. 44 games played, 24, 13, and 7 for 55 points and 22 wins in regulation or overtime. In fourth place are the Washington Capitals. 45 games played, 23, 16, and 6 for 52 points, 23 wins in regulation or overtime. In fifth place, the New York Islanders. 44 games played, 23, 18, and 3 for 49 points, and 23 wins in regulation or overtime. In sixth place are the Pittsburgh Penguins. 42 games played, 21, 15, and 6 for 48 points, 20 wins in regulation or overtime. Seventh place are the Philadelphia Flyers, who, looking at their record, is back at NHL 500 through 43 games with 18 wins and 18 losses plus 7 overtime losses, which equals out to 43 points. All 18 of Philadelphia's wins coming in regulation or overtime. And sitting with the worst record points-wise in the Eastern Conference, the Columbus Blue Jackets. 42 games played, 13, 27, and 2 for 28 points and 12 wins in regulation or overtime. If the season ended right now, the top 3 teams in the Atlantic Division would be Boston with 70 points, Toronto with 59 points, and Tampa Bay with 55 points. And the top 3 teams in the Metropolitan Division would be Carolina with 62 points, New Jersey with 59 points, and the New York Rangers with 55 points. Excuse me. The 2 wild card spots, as it sits right now, would go to the Washington Capitals with 52 points and the New York Islanders with 49 points. Pittsburgh would be 1 point out. Both Buffalo and Florida would be 5 points out. Detroit and Philadelphia would both be 6 points out. Ottawa would be 8 points out, Montreal 10 points out, and Columbus 21 points out. Over in the Western Conference, where we have a new leader in the Central Division, and that's the Winnipeg Jets. 44 games played, 29, 14, and 1 for 59 points. All 29 wins coming in regulation or overtime. That bumps the Dallas Stars down to second place. They've also played 44 games. They have a 25, 12, and 7 record, which is 57 points. 24 of their wins coming in regulation or overtime. In third place are the Minnesota Wild. 42 games, 24, 14, and 4 for 52 points. 21 wins in regulation or overtime. In fourth place are the defending Stanley Cup champs, the Colorado Avalanche, halfway through their schedule, 41 games played, 21, 17, and 3 for 45 points, and 18 wins in regulation or overtime. In fifth place are the St. Louis Blues, 21, 20, and 3 through 44 games played. They have 45 points and 18 wins in regulation or overtime. Sixth place are the Nashville Predators. 42 games, 19, 17, and 6 for 44 points and 17 wins in regulation or overtime. Seventh place is the Arizona Coyotes. 43 games played, 13, 25, and 5 for 31 points, 12 wins in regulation or overtime. And in last place in the Central Division are the Chicago Blackhawks, the team with the worst record points-wise in the National Hockey League through January 15th. Halfway through their schedule at 41 games, they're 11, 26, and 4 for 26 points. All 11 wins coming in regulation or overtime. And now we'll go to the Pacific Division, where it's starting to get tight at the top. The Vegas Golden Knights are still in first place through 44 games. They have a record of 28, 14, and 2. Good for 58 points. 25 wins in regulation or overtime. Tied for second in points are both the Seattle Kraken and the Los Angeles Kings. Seattle played 42 games. They have a 26, 12, and 4 record with 26 wins in regulation or overtime. LA, meanwhile, they played 46 games. They're 25, 15, and 6 with 21 wins in regulation or overtime, and both teams sit with 56 points. So they are right there with Vegas for that top spot. And then you have a points tie for fourth place with the two Alberta teams, the Calgary Flames and Edmonton Oilers. Calgary through 44 games is 21, 14, and 9 with 20 wins in regulation or overtime. Edmonton is 24, 18, and 3 with all 24 wins in regulation or overtime. Both teams sit with 51 points. And then the division really drops off from there. Sixth place is the Vancouver Canucks. 43 games, 18, 22, and 3, 39 points, 15 wins in regulation or overtime. In seventh place, the San Jose Sharks. 44 games, 13, 23, and 8 for 34 points, 12 wins in regulation or overtime. And in last place are the Anaheim Ducks. 43 games, 12, 27, and 4 for 28 points, 9 wins in regulation or overtime. The 28 points would tie Columbus for the second fewest in the NHL. Okay, looking at the playoff picture in the Western Conference, the top 3 teams in the Central Division would be Winnipeg with 59 points, Dallas with 57 points, and Minnesota with 52 points. The top 3 in the Pacific would be Vegas with 58 points, and Seattle and Los Angeles both with 56 points. The Kraken have played 4 fewer games than the Kings, so that puts them ahead of LA in the standings. And once again, the 2 wildcard spots in the West would go to the Alberta Cubs. Calgary being the number 1 wildcard with 51 points, and Edmonton, the number 2 wildcard, also with 51 points. Both Colorado and St. Louis sit at 6 points behind both Calgary and Edmonton. Nashville would be 7 points out. Vancouver would be 12 points out. San Jose, 17 points out. Arizona, 20 points out. Anaheim, 23 points out. And Chicago, 25 points out. Excuse me. Sorry about that. And that is a look at the updated standings in the NBA and the NHL through January 15th, plus the playoff races in both leagues. All right, that is it for today. Like, comment, and subscribe to my channel, and ring the bell to get notified every time I post a new vid. Big Al signing off. And in the words of the great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last. Thanks for watching.